Further debate? I recognize the member from Scarborough-Guildwood.
Speaker, I rise today to address the concurrence in supply as it pertains to the 2025 budget, a budget the government claims is a plan to protect Ontario. But when I look at the fine print, and I did look at the fine print, I see a plan that fails to protect the very Ontarians who count on us the most, our patients, our students, our workers, our families, those who wake up every morning hoping the government hasn't made their lives harder, which we know it becomes a disaster to live in Ontario right now. Speaker, let's start with healthcare, which is still underfunded and facing a $1 billion deficit. This government boasts about its investment, but when we pull back the curtains, the reality is staggering. Hospitals across Ontario are closing emergency rooms, wait times for surgeries, diagnostics and mental health services are at record highs. Nurses are burning out, they're still burning out and leaving the profession. This budget mentions $1.8 billion primary care action plan, yet today, Speaker, over 2.5 million Ontarians are still without a family doctor and counting. What about the exhausted health workers still working double shifts, picking up the slack for a system that's been stretched to the breaking point? We hear about $56 billion for health infrastructure. So while we welcome that over the 10 years, bricks and mortar don't treat patients. Where is the real investment in the people, in nurses, in personal support workers, in doctors for the North, for the rural Ontario, and for the communities that have been ignored year after year? While $280 million is being poured into private for-profit clinics, public hospitals are left to crumble. ERs are still shuttering, and patients are being sent hours away for basic care. Treating patients in hallways and staircases is the new normal for this government. A couple months ago, I had to follow up with one of my staff because she fell ill, and we had to wait for the ambulance to come. The ambulance took 15 minutes. Let me tell you, if she was having a heart attack, she would have not been with us today. I followed my staff to the hospital in the ambulance, and guess where she was treated once she became conscious? In the hallway. So I'm not understanding why this government is not facing the reality of knowing that patients are being treated in hallway and in some hospitals in staircases. What about mental health? What about addiction? What about the opioid crisis? Not one word in this budget. The government has mentioned alcohol 132 times, but I'm not surprised at all. There was no mention of poverty, autism, mental health, and ODSB. Let's move on to the economy, an amazing hot topic right now. Speaker, our economy is crumbling, and there is still no support from this government. Let's look at small businesses that this government doesn't talk about. Employ 2/3 of Ontario's private sector workforce. They're still part of this economy. They sustain families, enable students to afford college and universities, and form the backbone of our economy. Listen to the CFIB's most recent survey showed Ontario is the 3rd lowest small business confidence rate in Canada. That is shameful. In the coming months, twice the number of Ontario small businesses are planning to reduce staff rather than hire new ones. And most will face the dire decision to close their businesses, their heart, their dreams. Speaker, Ontario is tied for the highest provincial small business tax rate in Canada. In Ontario, over 7 in 10 small businesses say taxes are a major input cost constraint. The Ontario Liberals, we will continue to call on this government to implement the small business tax cut we have been tabling for over a year, which would reduce taxes on small business by up to $17,800 every year. Small business would love to get that monies back in their pocket so they can pay for overheads and they can help hire more employees. Speaker, small businesses' bankruptcies are up in Ontario. A very sad story. Just like every other thing that we have to survive on for equality of life is up in Ontario. I love to support workers. I love to support skills training and job creation. Speaker, the $5 billion Protection Ontario account is designed to protect jobs, but there is no guarantee that a single dollar will go to workers' wages or job security, just like the Skills Development Fund. The government boasts of $2.5 billion for the skills development, but where are the protections for workers' rights? Where are the supports for women entering trades and for equity-seeking groups? Still too often left behind. Horrible stats under this government. Unemployment is now at 7.9%, the highest rate in a decade, and up since this government took office when it was 5.9%. This government continues to let down the workers of Ontario. Speaker, let's take a look at transportation. My favorite topic, my favorite file that promises Ontario's big promises, but lots of pitfalls. This government loves to talk about big numbers, but too often these announcements come with delays, cost overruns, and broken promises. A $1.2 billion green bond announced January 2025 was allocated for 5 projects. GO Transit expansion, which is a total mess. Hazelmere-McCallion LRT has started $1.4 billion, now at $6 billion. Ontario Line Subway started at $10 billion, it's now at $27 billion. Scarborough Subway extension, which has started at $5 billion, it's now over $10 billion. So what I could say to this government, he said to the students, monies don't go on trees, but for him and his insiders and his donors, money does grow on trees. Ontarians deserve to know whether these massive public expenditures are being managed in their best interest, or whether systemic inefficiency and mismanagement have eroded the value of dollars spent. This is why I did call for a province-wide value for money audit. This would have helped restore public confidence, provide clear accountability, and ensure that future transit investments are procured and managed according to best practices. There is no shame in that. You know, there is no shame in correcting the government deficiencies and errors. Here's my trick question for this government. Who is benefiting from all these massive overruns? Speaker, this government cancelled a $1.6 billion 25-year operations and maintenance agreement between Metrolinx and Unexpress just months before it was set to begin. And we're asking how much dollars for our taxpayers that was wasted, and it's all secrecy. It's all secrecy. No accountability. Once again, I'm going to stress on this. The government has no transparency and no accountability for the millions of people impacted by this delay. Speaker, this contract was a cornerstone of Ontario's GO Rail electrification project. But in the coming months, we shall all see the results of this government's reckless decision regarding this cancellation. Fast forward, and we are experiencing the devastation. In my riding of Scarborough-Guildwood, we tabled a petition to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario to initiate a full public inquiry into the increasing cost, the delays, and governance failures of Scarborough Transit projects, including a public report detailing financial accountability and oversight. After all, these are taxpayers' dollars. They are not the government personal piggy bank. Madam Speaker, these projects represent tens of billions of dollars. This is why I call for a value for money audit into the ongoing delays, cost escalations, and transparency issues affecting multiple major transit projects across Ontario. This government does not have a clear plan to protect Ontario. It's a plan to protect profits, to protect insiders, and to protect the status quo, while leaving everyday Ontarians to weather the storm alone. Madam Speaker, we have nothing to show for the 2025 budget that really impacted the lives of Ontario. The people of Ontario are going through a life that has been more difficult for them than when this government took over. Are class-size rooms safe? Are families able to afford groceries, rent, and just the basics to get by? Or is it the Premier's friends and insiders who have his heirs? We're still trying to find out, because we are hearing from so many people in our riding that they're one paycheck away from going homeless. Speaker, I stand here not just to criticize, but to call for something better. I'm wrapping up right now. Ontario deserves a government that invests in people, not just press releases. A government that listens to workers, parents, students, and seniors, not just his friends, donors, and insiders. A government that builds, protects, and uplifts all Ontarians, not just those with friends in high places. Because when Ontario is at its best, it doesn't leave anyone behind. This should be a land of opportunity. Thank you.